Hello, this is my submission for the group project that I was unable to present. What I will be presenting today is a brief introduction. I'll quickly go over the rules of the game, but I'll mainly focus on the playing cards themselves because that's what I was supposed to present. And then I'll wrap up the presentation with a quick conclusion that ends at the point where the class would have actually gone up and gone to play the game. Then, before I start, I will also show you my setup. Apologize in advance, my room is a little bit messy. Yes, that's the setup, and we can get into the presentation itself. In the 1700s, pirates roamed, looted, and conquered the seven seas. With the proudly raised black flag, they managed to terrorize any body of water that they touched. Today, we will all get to experience this crazy point in history. And with that being said, are you ready to be a pirate? If the answer to that question is yes, I would like to introduce you all to this new board game called Pirate Clash, which was created by myself and my fellow team members. Now, let's take a look at the board game itself. This is our game board, and it might seem a little bit intimidating at first. There's a lot going on, but it's really not that confusing. I will break it down to you so it's a lot more simple to understand. To start off, we have two islands on the opposite side of the board. On the island, which is located at the bottom, that is where all the players will start the game. And their end goal is to reach the island at the top, which has a giant red X in the middle of it. What that signifies is where the hidden treasure is buried. Now, how the pirates will actually go ahead and get from their start all the way to their finishing point is by taking the paths that are laid across the board. And the paths are just a combination of tiles. And the player will just slowly move forward tile by tile until they get to the hidden treasure. It seems simple enough, but there is a tiny component that makes it a little bit more complicated. Some of the tiles are different colors, and each color signifies a different outcome for the player. If a player were to land on a gray tile, that ends their turn, and the turn moves on to the next player. If a player lands on a green or orange card, that signifies a movement or a pirate card, and the player will have to do whatever those cards tell them to do. And then there are the red tiles, which are the disaster spots. If a player lands on a disaster spot, exactly how it sounds like, they will have to reap the consequences of whatever disaster they have just run into. Now, let's look at how the players actually move across the board. What players will do when it's their turn is they'll have a six-sided dice, and they'll roll the dice. Whatever number that dice lands on is the number of spaces that they're going to move forward. This is called the initial roll. And on the initial roll, the player can only move forward. There are unique instances where a player could move backwards, but it's not on the initial roll. And you know what? We'll actually get into that part, why a player could move backward. Well, as we discussed earlier, there are certain tiles that are movement tiles and pirate tiles. And the colors of those tiles relate directly to the playing cards that we have, which are movement cards and our pirate cards. The movement cards are green, which correlates to the green tile. The pirate cards are orange, which correlates to the orange tile. Now, what do the movement cards do? Well, when a player lands on a green tile, they'll go ahead and draw a green card, movement card, and that card will have instructions as to how a player needs to move their ship, which is beyond the initial dice roll. They could either be directly told to move forward a certain amount of spaces, they could be directly told to move backward a certain amount of spaces, or in unique cases, they'll be required to roll a six-sided dice once again, and depending on which number they roll, that will determine their outcome, whether their player moves forward or backward a certain amount of spaces. Some examples that we had or our Fast Winds card, which directly moves your ship forward 2 spaces, our Lost Parrot card, which directly moves your ship backward 2 spaces, and then our High Tide card, which requires a player to roll a 6-sided die. If they land on a 1 through 3, they will catch the tide and move forward 2 spaces, or if they roll a number 4 through 6, they will go against the tide and be forced to move backwards 2 spaces. So those are our movement cards. Then we have our pirate cards. The number of pirates you have on your ship is going to be a very important part of the game. We'll get into that a little bit further into the presentation. But if a player lands on a pirate tile, they'll either gain or lose the number of pirates that they have on their ship. This kind of has a similar structure to the movement cards, as they can either directly gain a pirate, they can directly lose a certain number of pirates, or they will have to roll a 6-sided die, and depending on the outcome of their roll, that is the number of pirates they'll gain, lose, or the magnitude will change of how many pirates they gain or lose. So some examples we had from the pirate cards were our Straight Drunk, where you gain pirates, a Cannon Misfire, where you'll directly lose a pirate, and then Drunken Sailors, which will require the player to roll a 6-sided die. If they roll a 1 through 3, they will lose 1 pirate, and if they roll a 4 through 6, they will lose 2 pirates. Those were our playing cards. Now let's discuss the pirates themselves. Each player has a pirate crew, and they start off with 4 pirates on their ship. Now, different events throughout the game can affect the number of pirates they have, whether that's landing on a pirate tile or running into a disaster that causes you to gain or lose pirates. Now, what's important about having the most pirates possible is if 2 players will land on the same tile, they will have to clash. They will have to fight. And the more pirates you have, the better your odds are at winning the fight and keeping as many pirates as possible on your ship. During the clash, what both players will do is they'll roll a dice against each other. And the player that rolls the lower number will go ahead and lose a pirate. There is a little bit of a competitive advantage that you can get, especially if you have more pirates, as whatever the difference is from the ship with more pirates compared to the ship with less pirates, that will be added on to whatever number the player with the competitive advantage rolls. Kind of just adding that extra element of complexity to the game, and it creates a really fun competitive environment. Now, pirates. I just got news of where the hidden treasure is buried. It is your turn to go ahead and clash. Thank you. Happy holidays.